All right, we are live. So welcome back to Dapp University. So this is our first stream of the new year. I'm excited to be back with you all after having taken a little bit of time off. And today I want to talk about how 2022 is going to be a big year for blockchain, crypto, Web 3.0, Metaverse, everything around blockchain technology. I think is going to have a big year this year. That's what I'm talking about in this video. So if you're new around here, hey, I'm Gregory, and on this channel, I turn you into a blockchain master. So if that's something that you're interested in, then smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm and subscribe to this channel. And if you want to learn how to master blockchain step-by-step start to finish, then head on over to dappuniversity.com/bootcamp to get started today. Last but not least, like nothing I'm saying in this video is designed to be financial advice, and there's lots of scammers down in the comment section below. Just ignore them. Like, I'm never going to give you my phone number on YouTube or ask you to invest with me. That's absolutely crazy. Never going to DM you on a social network. Never going to try to get you into some secret chat room for a secret investment opportunity or anything like that. So we got people jumping in the chat here. We got Lee, Arian, hope I'm saying that right. Andrew, Abhishek, Venture Warrior, Technically, Scott, Chris. Welcome. So, Happy New Year to everybody. It was good to take a little bit of time off, but I'm excited to be back with you all. I hope you had a good, restful holiday. I know I sure did. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's talk about 2022 and why I think it's going to be a big year for blockchain. So first of all, 2021 was a huge year. We saw an explosion of use cases, explosion of users into the scene, explosive cryptocurrency prices, all that type of stuff. And I think 2022 can be a big year. But it might look different, okay? So that's what we're going to talk about and why it might be different from 2021. I don't necessarily think we'll see the same explosive growth in the use cases for crypto. We might, but what I expect 2022 to be is more of a year that this space deepens and broadens and actually, grows legs, gets stronger, and becomes more of what we want it to be over the long term, okay? So let's actually talk about that and look at some of this, piece by piece, because, this entire space, whatever you want to call it, blockchain space, crypto space, Web 3.0 space, it's kind of undergoing a big identity crisis right now. People are trying to figure out what's the best name for this. This whole thing that we're all talking about has a lot of smaller pieces underneath it. Decentralized finance, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, Metaverse, actual Web 3.0 technology, okay? So I'm going to look at a couple different themes or a couple different sub-trends within this entire space and talk about how I'm seeing news come out about each of them that supports this idea that it's going to really continue to explode into 2022. So let's look at a couple of these. So one space in particular that I do think is going to deepen in 2022 is the NFT space, okay? This is for non-fungible tokens. We saw this explode last year. We saw lots of different people, come on to the NFT scene. A lot of NFT prices boom and bust and kind of have their own microcycle. So I don't have much to say about what's going to happen to the price of each individual NFT collectible, but I do think that we're going to continue to see NFTs take off and deepen, like I was saying before. We've seen lots of people want to break into the NFT space because they want to capitalize on some of the market share that some of these major players like OpenSea are getting, because we can see exactly what they're earning from protocol revenue on the blockchain itself. You can see they're absolutely cleaning up and don't have really meaningful competition in this space. So we see people like, Coinbase launching their NFT platform, all that type of stuff. So here we see Samsung to introduce NFT platforms within its new smart TVs. Okay. So, I think NFTs are kind of undergoing this experimental phase where a lot of people are throwing their name in the hat and trying to throw things against the wall and see what sticks. I mean, that's really what's happening in this entire space in the first place. But NFTs are particularly doing this. We're talking about NFT sneakers, things like that. We're trying to experiment with what's possible in that world. And I think this is another example of that. So Samsung Electronics announced Monday that its new smart TVs will allow users to purchase non-fungible tokens or NFTs. Specifically, the micro LED, these models. With demand for NFTs on the rise, The need for a solution to today's fragmented viewing and purchasing landscape has never been greater. In 2022, Samsung is introducing the world's first TV screen-based NFT Explorer marketplace aggregator, a groundbreaking platform that lets you browse, purchase, and display your favorite art all in one place. So this looks like a little bit of a teaser for it, and they even have some education on here about what is a non-fungible token. So this is pretty crazy because there's a lot of people out there who have Samsung TVs and actually use the native smart TV functionality inside of it. And this is one of those things where even if this, only a fraction of the users are really going to go down this rabbit hole. But even that being said, the amount of market share that Samsung has to get, to drop this impression on even, a fraction of that a fraction of their user base to go down this rabbit hole of what is a non-fungible token. Because there's a lot of people who, outside the crypto space need multiple impressions before they actually, take part in what's happening here. I mean, a lot of people still view NFTs with skepticism. I mean, I definitely viewed crypto collectible NFTs with a high degree of skepticism, when I first saw them, even as somebody who's in this space every single day. Okay. And a lot of people on the outside are seeing the same thing. But as you see more people, as you see more social proof of like people using them, or collecting them, or using NFTs for some other use case, which I'll talk about here in a minute, you see them advertised on your TV. It's one of those things where a lot of people need multiple touch points, and this is an extra touch point that could be part of that, customer journey or conversion journey, whatever you want to call it. So I think that's pretty big. And I do see, like I said before, I do see NFT use cases expanding, likely in 2022, definitely beyond. So let's talk about that. I'll take a little pause and take a drink here. Somebody says, when is the How to Become a Blockchain Developer in 2022 video going to release? This week. So I am going to have a updated video. People ask me all the time, what's the roadmap for becoming a blockchain developer from knowing nothing all the way to getting your first job, creating your own app, becoming a freelancer, whatever it is you want to do, building a bot. I have that video updated for 2022 coming out this week. So that's the person in the chat is asking me. All right, so let's talk about expanding use cases for NFTs in 2022. Because like I was saying before, I mean, even as someone in the space every single day, I viewed, the NFT collectibles trend with skepticism when it first came out. Now, I do see a lot of legitimacy to it over the long term, for sure. But what I'm personally more excited about, and it's not a diss on NFTs, I'm personally more excited about the use cases beyond the collectibles themselves, with what we can do with NFTs. So, because I think we're just scratching the surface. We saw this come out. So SEC Commissioner Hester Peirce is expecting growth in NFT use cases in 2022. And this is exactly what I was just talking about. So SEC Commissioner says she's expecting an increase in the financialization of non-fungible tokens, and that that means holders will have to keep an eye out on their ways their activity could run into securities laws. So we've seen some of this. We've seen some of these NFT projects under regulatory scrutiny because they do things like offer royalties, right, or some sort of passive, investment income. And the second you start doing that with NFTs, the second somebody at one of these regulatory bodies starts, kind of licking their chops, and especially if your project's big enough. So in an interview with CoinDesk First Mover on Thursday, Peirce delivered her 2022 outlook. She says she anticipates additional use cases for NFTs as people figure out how they can further extract value from the tokens. As those use cases expand ownership and governance rights, Peirce said holders should look to see how those uses might, dovetail with securities laws. And so I think she's trying to get people to be careful, because we are going to see expansion of use cases in 2021, but you have to be cautious in how those use cases might infringe upon existing laws, like I was talking about a second ago. So that being said, for me, I'm excited about what we can do with non-fungible tokens, because really they can apply to any value that is non-fungible. So what do I mean by that, right? It's kind of a horrible way of explaining it. So I'll just break it down. What is fungible versus non-fungible? So a fungible basically means if you're talking about a collection of some kind, you can trade any item in that collection for another item in that collection. It doesn't matter which item you have. So for example, all the Bitcoins in existence, it doesn't matter which Bitcoin you have. If I trade it for another Bitcoin, it's worth the exact same, all right? But for a fungible collection, it does matter which one you have because there's a hierarchy among the individual items in the collection. So for example, like, trading cards, if you have Pokemon cards or baseball cards, whatever they are, right? Each individual card might be worth a different amount than the other thing. So it matters which one you have. So there's a hierarchy among the collection. Some are more valuable than others. In computer science terms, each member has an ID. Okay, so it matters which one you have. So that applies to a lot of things, right? So a fungible collection, in terms of finance or like your actual physical money. So assuming that, every dollar's printed like in the same year and it's not a collectible piece of currency, like every dollar's worth the same, right? But in real world assets, right, like houses are non-fungible, right? So it matters which house you have. Real estate's location, the size of the property, the quality of the finishes, all that type of stuff, right? Makes each individual property more or less valuable. And so these are non-fungible things, and we have lots of implications for what you can do with that, right? So, also intellectual property rights. Any intellectual property could be, like the ownership of that intellectual property could be modeled with NFT. This has huge implications for music. This has huge implications for artwork, for books, for all this type of stuff. So, I am super, super, super interested in non-fungible token use cases. They're beyond the collectibles like I'm talking about, specifically in the areas of, real estate, intellectual property, finance, which is really more for DeFi and like cryptocurrency, things like that. But I do think we can have some NFT use cases in there as well. So I don't know that we're necessarily going to see explosion of those use cases in 2022. That's not what I'm trying to say. Because what we're talking about here is a lot of these new use cases, it's not about the technology holding us back. It's about regulatory clarity. And also, the incentives for existing regulatory bodies to allow those use cases to take off. And, so for example, like if you wanted to model the deed to your house with a non-fungible token, the technology is there. And honestly, the amount of real estate transactions that take place in the United States on a daily basis, like the Ethereum blockchain as it exists right now with the current scalability, would be just fine because the total volume of real estate transactions per day is small enough where Ethereum could actually facilitate the transfer of, ownership. And real estate's a pay to play game. So anytime you're moving, a title around or a deed, right? Like you're already paying a significant amount of money to do that, and the transaction fees would actually accommodate that. So the technology is there in its current form as is for that use case to take off and flourish. What's really holding it back is regulations. So what we have to do is basically wait for that piece of the puzzle to be solved, and part of solving that is actually aligning the incentives to where there's a good reason for regulators to allow you to do that. Okay, so that's where the conversation really needs to head, in my opinion, to see those things take off. Okay, so let's look at another sort of sub-trend that I think is going to grow legs in 2022 and continue to take hold. I'll do a quick question and answer here real quick, though. Is remote job easily found in blockchain? Yes, I would say. I don't have the statistics off the top of my head, but like if I had to guess, I would say a majority of blockchain jobs are remote. That may not be totally accurate, but I think it's true that a lot of them are. Whether it's a majority or not, pie is big enough to where even if a large percentage is, it'd be relatively easy to find a remote one. Okay, so let's continue on with what I was talking about here. Another sub-trend that I expect to take off in 2022 and continue to grow legs. And that's what I really mean. This is a trend that's already emerged, but deepening, broadening, bringing more users in, building out more infrastructure is definitely the metaverse. All right. So there's a couple things to think about here. So I was actually talking to somebody the other day that was asking me like, "Hey, explain the metaverse to me. Like, what does it mean?" So that. I get this kind of question all the time, and the truth is, we are still we're still getting clarity on exactly what the metaverse is. All right, but we can actually break it down and say here are some of the fundamental characteristics, some of the fundamental features or attributes of the metaverse that exist now, that make way for certain use cases now. And whatever the final use cases are, whatever the final form is, it will also embody these things. This is a common thread, all right? Because a lot of people view the metaverse also with skepticism. We'll look at that here in a second, and I think it's for a good reason. All right, and you should be skeptical of some of the things that happen in the metaverse. You should be skeptical about some of the things that are Web3, crypto, blockchain. Not everything's going to work. Some stuff is a scam. So let's kind of break it down. So. With metaverse now, or at least the allure, the promise of a metaverse is really an embodied internet. So, the internet, taking the internet as we know it now and taking it to the next step where we experience it in three-dimensional space with augmented reality or virtual reality. All right, so there's a difference. Augmented reality is like mixing virtual reality with your physical world around you. So you might have glasses that you can see the room that you're watching this video in, or maybe you're outside, and then you can maybe place an object in your physical space that is an illusion, right, created by wearable technology of some kind, or maybe you're looking through a phone. Or a virtual reality where you actually have a wearable device on that is completely immersive, like you get sucked into this experience. And you can't see your physical world around you, right? So we've had this technology for a long time. So why this metaverse thing? Why does that matter? We've had augmented reality, virtual reality for years now. Well, first of all, the augmented reality, virtual reality is getting to a tipping point where it actually makes sense to start scaling it even more to more users to create new use cases. But the metaverse, what it does is it helps this embodied internet, because now what we want to do is actually create internet spaces, like internet worlds that you can experience. You can have experiences inside of. And the key point of why the metaverse is happening now and didn't happen before is because the metaverse is an entire space. It's an entire internet that's not owned by a central organization, all right? So, our central company, corporation, whatever you want to call it. And that's what blockchain is for. So we can have blockchains to basically make this open metaverse that people can actually take ownership over. And we have this distributed blockchain that helps facilitate that process. So we are still in the infancy of this, like I was saying before. There's some stuff that's getting tried that's not going to work. But there's some stuff that probably will work over the long term. And we don't exactly know what all those things are going to be. But in their final form, they will embody those attributes like I was talking about before, an embodied internet experience where you use augmented reality or virtual reality in a common shared space that is owned and made possible by blockchain technology. So, like I was saying, a lot of people are viewing this with skepticism. So Wired's top editor, Metaverse feels like a terminological land grab. All right. So the word metaverse is popping up everywhere. Facebook recently changed its name to Meta. Nike bought a virtual shoe company to help expand the metaverse. Other brands like Gucci and Ralph Lauren have been considering the future of fashion with digital personas. So with all the attention, it can be difficult for general news consumers to parse through what is a marketing gimmick versus what really matters. That's kind of like what I was talking about a minute ago. It requires journalists to approach the tech industry's new favorite buzzword with an open mind and nuance, something that the media hasn't always been consistent with in years past, coming from somebody in media. According to Gideon Litchfield, global editor, director of Wired. Well, also somebody from the media. No hate here. It's a little bit of irony. So every time the industry goes after a new name for something and tries to pivot, something new inevitably comes out of it. This is what I was talking about. It's not clear what it'll be. This is exactly what I just said. All right. So I think one has to be really critical of this tendency and call out what is marketing hype, which is a large part of it, whilst remaining open-minded to the fact that something new does emerge. This is exactly what I was just saying in different words. So we're pushing in this direction. See massive capital, massive momentum in this direction. We don't know exactly what's going to work and what's going to come out of it long term. Okay. A lot of BS is going to be there now on the way. A lot of stuff's not going to stick. But very, very, very likely there will be something lasting that is created here of value that will be a big deal long term. And so that's what we're going to watch out for in 2022. One thing that could potentially accelerate this, we talk about major companies getting into the space, Facebook, rebranding to Meta, Nike shoes, the fashion industry, all type of stuff. So Apple, like I accidentally said a second ago, is rumored to launch a wearable device in 2022, some sort of AR, VR wearable of some kind, okay? Now, we don't know this for sure. This is rumored, okay? But this is definitely something to watch out for that could sort of pour gasoline on this because I think this is a big deal for a lot of the skeptics out there who might fall into the camp of the Apple, fan base or user base. As I've been saying before, many people need multiple touch points before they, convert into this new way of doing things. And, this could be another touch point for those people along that journey. Somebody says, why did you shave your beard? New year, new me. Okay, so let's look at another quick update. I know a lot of people have been watching the crypto markets over the holidays and wondering, like, hey, what's happening? There are a lot of people waiting for the end of 2022, or end of 2021, excuse me. Man, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start mixing up my years like crazy. It's going to take me like months to get the current year correct. But I know a lot of people sitting there looking at the end of 2021 at the crypto markets, not feeling very optimistic because a lot of people were expecting $100,000 Bitcoin in 2021. A lot of people were expecting a $10,000 Ether in 2021. Neither of those things happened. So my outlook on this is those are still my long-term price targets. I've never made any timelines on what those things are. I still think that those numbers are on the table without introducing some sort of crazy extended grueling bear market before we get there. But I want to actually look at an update on this from Raul Paul over at Real Vision Global Macro Investor. We looked at a lot of his updates on the channel, but he put out a tweet thread a few days ago that I want to explore here because I think there's a lot of valuable insights inside of this. So there's a lot going on in the digital asset space, but also nothing going on at this, and that is the problem. So let me give you some thoughts. Bitcoin volumes have been stagnant since the run-up in 2020, all right? And active wallet addresses have not gone anywhere either. It seems that retail activity peaked at the beginning of 2021. This was when we basically saw that massive FOMO parabolic run, all right? But that has been replaced by institutions, okay? Here measured by wallets with over $10 million, which are rising in general, but the numbers are still pretty small, okay? So talk about this a lot, retail investors versus institutional investors. Retail investors are basically like people like you or me who get on the internet and get on Google and say, how do I buy Bitcoin? right? They're investing with smaller amounts of capital. In this case, less than $10 million, which I'm sure, it's $5 million is a lot of money. But still, he's using $10 million shares as a threshold. But the point here is institutions, participating in crypto is good because they can move the needle in the way that retail investors, can't. We saw Tesla buy $1.5 billion of Bitcoin for its balance sheet in 2021. You'd have a really hard time pulling that kind of capital from friends and family, depending on what kind of circles you run in. And if you adjust for a price, bigger investors liquidated have barely returned. So if Metcalfe's law applies, the network growth is currently very slow, hence why price is sluggish. The same is true of ETH, but there is a different factor here at play, hence the outperformance. Due to DeFi NFTs and the stronger narrative around ETH, volumes have remained more elevated. All right, you can see the buying volume of Ether. All right, or transaction volume, I should say. Addresses keep rising, so this is unique addresses. Okay. But active addresses have stagnated all year as people have rotated into different opportunities in a sideways market. So we're still seeing growth. It's just that it's been, kind of slow here. But with ETH, actually that's over a longer time frame. So this is the year mark right here. Yeah, so it's somewhat flat. But with ETH, higher volumes equal more ETH burned, more demand, and then ETH staking has reduced supply. Okay, so we got ETH locked up in Ethereum 2.0 staking. So burning plus staking maintain volume. This is why ETH has outperformed Bitcoin by 4x in 2021. But with no net real new capital flowing in the space, attention moves to other change, which also have proof of stake, but earlier network adoption taking volumes away from both Bitcoin and Ether. This is creating rapid rotations as people already in the space shift from assets looking for returns, then DeFi, then NFTs, then L1s. Lots of churn, net, no new meaningful increase in market cap and overall sideways market. Many of these layer ones have had the same staking plus burning dynamic going on, but have small market caps, so their prices rise faster if volume picks up. All assets which are driven by network effects require network to grow, rising value. That's why we see this moving so slowly. Anyways, I won't finish with the entire thread, but that is, I'll put a link in the description below, but these are some ideas on why we're seeing sort of the current price action in the crypto markets. So I'll jump down to the conclusion here, which is this. Basically, new capital will flow in over time, and a broader rally when it arrives will bring retail investors in a reflexive loop of institution investors FOMOing in. That day will come. You just have to not overextend yourself. Don't use leverage and sit tight. Play the long game, which is exactly what I do on this channel. The best advice I got was from Paul Tudor Jones, who once told me the best investors he knew are ones whose investment time horizon matches their idea time horizon. So if your model is based on Metcalfe's law, then basically you need to be thinking in years, not weeks or months. So that's exactly what I've been talking about on this channel, is basically, my long-term thesis for the crypto markets is as you create technology with real use cases, real benefits that you can't get somewhere else, that attracts people to use the technology. And insofar as cryptocurrency is inextricably integrated into that technology, the value can actually accrue to the cryptocurrencies themselves. That's what I think we've been seeing in the crypto markets over the past, year and change. Some of that has stagnated, and so we've seen some of the cryptocurrency markets stagnate as a result. But on the larger time horizon, I don't really see that slowing down on the macro scale. Okay. Particularly what I'm talking about here with 2022 being a big year with the deepening use cases. I mean, just look at all the evidence that we see popping up of Samsung's going to launch an NFT platform in their TVs. This person's going to introduce this. This person, it's that part is continuing to take off, and that's why I see the entire space continue to take off. And long term, the entire crypto markets, continue on a macro uptrend. Okay, we just don't know exactly how long it's going to take to reach those price targets of $100,000 Bitcoin, $10,000 Ether. Nobody knows for sure. But I do think that we will get there. At least that's how I'm playing my cards. Of course, it's not financial advice. That's just what I am personally doing. All right, everybody. I will answer a couple more questions. We got a quick piece of housekeeping that I want to cover. And then we'll wrap up for today. So if you applied for any of the open positions that we have at Dapp University, I have reviewed most of those, almost all of those applications, and will be reaching out shortly. So if you have been sitting over the holidays wondering what's the status of that, that is the status of that. Okay, so we'll be reaching out shortly. So if you applied, just hang tight. So what do you think makes a successful NFT project? Is it enough to just mint a collection? Something unique at this stage in the game is definitely going to be required. Uniqueness, community. Well, I'll say required. Increase the likelihood that will be successful. I'm assuming you're talking about collectible type stuff because you said mint. Why do I only use React components in your tutorials and no React hooks? We have experimented using more React hooks in the blockchain mastery program recently. Components, in my experience, are easier for beginners to understand and to implement. That's one of the biggest reasons that we've done it in the past, but I'm not tied to it. I do see other people asking for React hooks. So we're trying it out, and we'll likely be releasing some of that content on YouTube pretty soon. Somebody says Eminem bought a Bored Ape Yacht Club over the holiday. All right, everybody. That's all I got for today. Super excited to be back with you all for the new year. Again, I hope everybody had a good holiday. I know I sure did. Got some much needed rest and relaxation, but I'm energized for a 2022 that I think is going to be a big year for blockchain. As always, smash that like button down below for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. That really helps these videos out so that more people can learn about blockchain. And if you're as fast at the technology as I am, you want to get your hands dirty, how can you get started today? You can go to my YouTube homepage. You can find my free courses there. They're like Udemy courses, but they're totally free. We've got a new one coming out. Actually, we just put out a new one, I think a couple days ago. Let's see if I can find it here. I'm going to show you all this on screen in case people are wondering, like, hey, where are we putting the YouTube tutorials? Let's just see here. So, yeah, if you go to my YouTube homepage, all right, and then you look here past the uploads, all right, free blockchain development courses, we're putting these here, and I put the most recent ones first. So we just released a video on an NFT minting bot, how to create that. Yeah, so definitely check those out if you haven't already. If you like those videos, you want to take the next step, or hey, maybe you want to take a master shortcut entirely, actually I can master blockchain step-by-step start to finish over at dappuniversity.com/bootcamp. You don't have to be an expert to get started today. I've helped people with zero coding experience become real-world blockchain developers in a matter of months. So that's all I've got. Until next time, thanks for watching Dapp University.